It was a peaceful afternoon at the Veterans Cemetery, a place of honor, respect, and quiet remembrance. The sun cast long shadows over rows of neatly placed headstones as families paid tribute to their fallen heroes. But the tranquility was suddenly shattered when a gang of rowdy bikers roared in, disrupting the solemn atmosphere with their blaring engines and unruly behavior. Among those paying respects was a nurse, a woman with a fierce heart and an unshakable sense of justice. She watched silently as the bikers disrespected sacred ground, but when they crossed the line, she knew she couldn't stay silent any longer. What followed was a confrontation no one expected, a battle of courage, values, and surprising revelations. As tensions rose and the unexpected unfolded, this nurse proved that respect and honor can have powerful defenders in the most unlikely of situations. What happened next left everyone stunned. Stay tuned to see how it all ends. The nurse, known by some as Emily, had been visiting the cemetery for years, honoring the memory of her father, a decorated veteran who had taught her the values of respect and resilience. She was no stranger to hardship, having spent countless nights on the front lines of care, fighting to save lives. But today, her battle was different. Standing quietly by her father's grave, she clenched her fists as the bikers laughed and revved their engines, their careless behavior scattering flowers and disrupting the peaceful silence. These riders weren't just any bikers. They were notorious for causing trouble wherever they went. Some whispered they were a part of a group that thrived on intimidation, always looking for their next target. Emily remained calm, but her eyes never left them. Her silence was not a sign of fear, but a gathering storm. As one biker approached her with a smirk, no one could have guessed what was about to happen next. The leader of the bikers, a towering figure with a leather jacket full of intimidating patches, strutted forward. His smirk widened as he flicked away a memorial flower with his boot. "What's the matter, lady? A little noise too much for you," he sneered. Emily lifted her gaze, calm but piercing. She didn't flinch, didn't back away. Her heart pounded, but her voice remained steady. "This is sacred ground," she said firmly. "Show some respect." The other bikers chuckled, feeding off the tension, but something in her unwavering eyes silenced the smirks. "And what if I don't?" The leader challenged, stepping closer. Nearby visitors watched with growing unease, whispering among themselves. Some reached for their phones, unsure if they should intervene or call for help. Emily, however, didn't wait for anyone else to act. She took a step forward, her presence commanding attention, her resolve as unshakable as the headstones behind her. Just then, a sudden sound shattered the air, freezing everyone in place. The sharp crack of a branch breaking echoed through the cemetery, cutting through the tension like a blade. Everyone turned their heads toward the sound. From the far end of the grounds, a group of veterans slowly approached. Their uniforms, though faded with time, still carried the weight of honor and service. Their eyes, hardened by battles of the past, now burned with quiet fury at the scene unfolding before them. The bikers glanced at each other, their bravado wavering as the veterans moved closer, their footsteps steady and deliberate. Emily stood her ground, her heart racing. The leader's smirk faltered, but he puffed out his chest, unwilling to back down. "You're in the wrong place," one veteran said firmly, his voice gravelly but full of strength. The leader's eyes narrowed, his hands tightening into fists. The cemetery seemed to hold its breath. Emily felt the weight of every choice pressing down, knowing the next moment would define everything. The leader clenched his jaw, scanning the veterans now forming a solemn line behind Emily. "You think you can scare us with your war stories?" He scoffed, though his voice had lost some of its edge. He took a step forward, but before he could say more, a sharp whistle rang out. From behind a tall monument, a uniformed officer emerged, one with an unmistakable air of authority and a presence that commanded respect. The officer wasn't just anyone. He was a decorated Marine who had served alongside some of the men now standing with Emily. His gaze swept over the scene, lingering on the bikers with a calm intensity that spoke louder than words. "Disrespecting these grounds," he began, his voice like stone, "is disrespecting every sacrifice made here." As the bikers shifted uncomfortably, the leader's smirk vanished entirely. But just when it seemed the tide had turned, one of the bikers reached for something beneath his jacket. Emily's breath caught as the moment balanced on a knife's edge. Emily's pulse quickened as her eyes locked on the biker's hand. The veteran stiffened, ready for anything, their instincts sharp despite the years. But instead of pulling out a weapon, the man revealed a tattered photograph. He stared at it, his tough exterior cracking. "My brother's buried here," he muttered, his voice low but trembling. The tension shifted, a heavy silence falling over the crowd. The leader's bravado faded as he glanced at his friend. His own hardened expression softened, guilt flashing across his face. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Emily's voice broke through, steady and calm. "We're here to remember. Every life honored here matters, including his." The leader's shoulders sagged as the weight of his choices pressed down. Without a word, he signaled his crew. One by one, they turned off their engines. The cemetery fell into quiet once more, but just as peace seemed restored, the officer stepped forward with a knowing smile. "Respect goes beyond today," he said. "It's what we carry every day." The bikers nodded, humility replacing hostility. They walked toward the graves in silence, a powerful reminder that even the fiercest hearts can find reverence in the right place. Emily watched as they knelt, a twist no one had seen coming. Sometimes redemption finds us when we least expect it. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, a calm settled over the cemetery. The bikers, once loud and defiant, now moved quietly among the headstones. Some knelt, brushing dust from names etched in stone, while others placed fallen flowers back in their rightful place. Emily watched, her heart filled with a quiet sense of triumph, not for herself, but for the dignity restored to this sacred ground. The veterans remained standing, a silent honor guard, their eyes reflecting pride and understanding. The officer nodded at Emily, a gesture of mutual respect. She smiled, feeling her father's presence in the stillness around her. As the bikers prepared to leave, the leader paused, glancing back. "Thank you," he murmured, sincerity softening his voice. Emily didn't respond with words. She didn't need to. The roar of engines returned, but this time it carried no menace, only reverence. Some battles aren't fought with fists, but with honor, courage, and the strength to change.